God bless y'all. God bless you. I like to talk about my legal problems. I have some legal issues. First, I'd like you to know that on my record, uh, I have a case called promoting prostitution, which means I was pandering women 30 years ago. I was 18 years old. She was 16 anyway. She was a white girl, so you know how that go. I ended up catching that case and being sent to prison for that. I have a couple drug possessions from maybe 15, 16, 17 years ago. Uh, 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 I got probably a CCW where I had only did 20 days in jail. Paid a fine, was a misdemeanor, and that's all I really have on my record. Now everything else I'm finna tell you about is information that's either been falsified or how I've been attacked. Now remember, I don't drink. I don't drink beer or wine or liquor. I don't smoke weed. I don't do any type of drugs. Uh, I don't do no marijuana. And my life has been pretty clean for the last 18 years. No sin, no crime. Yet I've been to prison 3 times and I've not committed a crime. Let me tell you my story. In 1999, I went to Long Beach, California to visit my brother. I was saved then. I met a young woman named Denethia Wilson. And when I met the young woman named Denethia Wilson, we met, we went to the beach, we went to her place on a different occasion, and everything that happened between me and Denethia Wilson was totally consensual. Nothing ever happened that made her uncomfortable, where anything was forced upon her, where any commotion or disturbance started, or any or any type nothing ever happened where that wasn't consensual. Nothing. Anyway, Denethia Wilson, I had went to the house one day and the police said that Denethia Wilson had filed a restraining order on me. I don't know why they took me in on rape charges, and the reason they say she had filed a restraining order because her boyfriend was out of town. Is the story I had received from someone else, and that she had messed with me, you know, made contact with me, and he was out of town, and she don't want me really coming back to the house, but she don't want to tell me that she was living with someone or seeing someone. Anyway, after they had arrested me for rape charges against Denethia Wilson in Long Beach, California, you know, I called her a couple times, and she accepted my collect call, and all she did was cry on the phone. That's all she did was just cry, cry, cry. I didn't understand why was she crying like that. So I called her a different time, and she just cried, cried, cried. I told my attorney, Gregory Lester, Mr. Gregory Lester, I said, I called Denethia Wilson and asked her what was this all about, and all she did was cry. She didn't even talk. He suggested that I don't call anymore, so I hadn't called her again, right? Anyway, they started off offering me like 40 years, 30 years. You know how you go back and forth to court. 25 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. Then they finally came down to 5 years probation. When they offered me 5 years probation, my attorney, Mr. Gregory Lester, said, that I should take the 5 years probation because I was probably going to be in the county jail for quite some time fighting the case if I didn't. He said, as a matter of fact, they said that if you took the probation today, they're going to let you out of jail today. If you take it today and you can come back to sentencing. I decided to take it. Even though I first told my attorney, Mr. Gregory Lester, that I hadn't committed the crime and that why would I cop out to a 261 rape by force and fear? And it's not true. But you know, they were going to let me out of jail that day. And I felt like I had been framed, set up, and kidnapped. So naturally, if they finna let me out of jail that day, I'm going to take the probation. So that's what I did. I took the probation, 5 years probation for the 261 rape, and they let me out of jail that same day like they promised, and they told me to come back in 3 weeks to be sentenced. But the sentencing was finna be, 5 years probation. Anyway, I had called my attorney and told him I wasn't going to be able to make it back because I came back to here to Ohio, and my mother was sick. And Mr. Gregory Lester went in the courtroom and asked the judge who was going to sentence me, my trial judge, to if she could reschedule, give me another week or maybe 2 to make it back. But the judge denied it, and she put a warrant out for me. Anyway, when I got back there, the sentencing was still on the table because I hadn't received the probation yet. So they expedited me back to California from Cleveland. I told the judge when I went in front of her that I didn't want the probation now. The deal was still on the table. I didn't want it because I wanted to go to trial. I had a time to come out of jail and get back out in the world, and I discussed it with a few people, and I decided that I'm going to trial. I don't care how long it takes. I'm not going to take no probation if I didn't commit the crime. Anyway, the judge decided to send me to prison without a plea bargain or trial. She sent me to prison for 8 years. St. Louis Lobiso, California. While I was in prison for 8 years, it was the most. I never experienced anything being saved like this. I was a saved Christian. I had not really committed the crime, and I really was set up, framed, and I really did feel kidnapped and sent to prison for 8 years and hadn't done anything for real. Hey, so while I was in prison for 8 years, I met a guy, a Jewish guy. While I was in prison, any time in my life, I've never indulged in no type of gay sex. I've never in my life done nothing gay to a man. I would never let a man do nothing gay to me. I've never indulged in any homosexuality, and I don't have any gay tendencies. I just want to clear that because, I want you to know I met a guy, but he was a cool guy, white Jewish guy. And when I met this guy, this brother, he was real cool. He was an attorney. And I told him my situation. I said, hey, man, I'm from Ohio. I come up here to visit my brother. I was only in Long Beach 3 weeks. And some woman said that I raped her. And I told him my story. And he said, well, your appeal time is up. But he said, I'm going to write the courts for you because you're ignorant to the facts of the law here in California. I'm going to see if they'll give you a late appeal. So that's what they did. They gave me a late appeal. Then he wrote them again and asked for me appeal attorney. They gave me appeal attorney next. And The next thing you know, uh, a short time after that, maybe less than a year or maybe a little over a year, which it was dated 12/21/01, I received papers that said in the Court of Appeals of the State of California, Second Appellate District, the people plaintiff and respondent versus Cornell Joe Smith, defendant and appellate, case number NA049 NA040929. I received dated 12/21/01. Case number is on there. Anyway, it has the names also of says appeal, has the judge's name, the district court, those who made the decision, and all that information. And this is what the paperwork says. Now this is in the Court of Appeals of the State of California, Second Appellate District 4. That's where these papers are from. Now, remember, I received the papers and they were dated 12/21/01, which is December the 21st of 2001. This is 2013. This is 12 years ago. Look what the paper said. First, it gives some history of what I told you about. Appellate Cornell Joe Smith seeks to withdraw his plea of no contest to forcible rape because the sentence for which he bargained is illegal since he was not eligible for probation. Attorney General agrees with the appellate. So do we. The judgment is reversed and the trial court is direct to allow appellate to withdraw his guilty plea. In light of this disposition, we do not argue appellate's other arguments on appeal. That's just to brief you on everything that just took place, right? In this paperwork, it gave you that information right off the top. But then it gives you some history of the case, factual and procedural summary. Appellate plead no contest to one count of forcible rape, 261. All statutory reference are to this code in exchange for a promise that he would be sentenced to 5 years probation with credit for time served and suspended prison sentence of 8 years in the event of probation violation. 3 other counts were dismissed. After accepting the plea, the trial court advised appellate that if he failed to appear for sentencing, the plea bargain could be withdrawn and he could be sentenced to 8 years in prison. Appellate did not appear on the original date for the sentencing hearing. New counsel for appellate then moved to vacate the plea on the grounds that appellate was not mentally competent and did not receive the benefit of his plea bargain because he was not advised that he could be sentenced to 8 years in prison if he did not appear for sentencing until after the plea was accepted. The motion to vacate the plea was denied and appellate was sentenced to the high term of 8 years. We granted appellate a motion to file a late notion of appeal. Just like I told you, this is just history of what happened, me accepting the 5 years probation and then not making it back to court and the judge sending me to prison anyway. I withdrew the plea. And it just gives you history of how my appeal time had ran out and how they gave me the right to file a late appeal. All the history of the case that I told you about right there, right? Now this is the discussion. The discussion is the information as far as what our laws are, what their laws are. A defendant convicted of rape is ineligible for probation. That's what the government is telling you first. Therefore, a sentence to a term of probation is illegal for such offense. Where a plea bargain could not be specifically enforced, the remedy is to allow the defendant to withdraw the plea and to go to trial on the original charges. So what they're saying is, first of all, I wasn't eligible for rape in the first place. I wanted to go to trial, but they were trying to give me 5 years probation. The next thing they're saying is, where a plea bargain cannot be specifically enforced, you can't enforce anyone to take a plea bargain. See, they were forcing me because I wanted to withdraw my plea. I had a right. I hadn't been sentenced yet. So I had a right to say, Your Honor, I don't want the 5 years probation. I like to go to trial on the matter. I had that right to do that. That's the law, right? So they're saying where a plea bargain cannot be specifically enforced, you can't force me to take that plea bargain, right? The remedy is to allow the defendant to withdraw the plea and to go to trial on original charges. That's what the district court's supposed to have done. You're supposed to allow me to withdraw the plea and to go to trial on original charges. Now let's see what now that's what the trial court's supposed to have done. But this is the appeals court here. They're going to pay for damages or compensate me some kind of way because of, I ended up going to prison for 8 years and didn't get the benefit of my plea bargain. So here it is. Here, the plea bargain could not be specifically enforced, and that it was illegal because the appellate was ineligible for probation. Therefore, the trial court should have allowed the appellate to withdraw his guilty plea and to stand trial on the original charges. That's what you should have done. The Attorney General agrees that the sentence must be reversed, and the appellate allowed to withdraw his plea for this reason. First thing they're saying is, we're going to reverse the sentence. The sentence must be reversed. Well, my sentence was 8 years California State Prison. First thing they said was, the Attorney General agrees that the sentence must be reversed. So you know what it means to reverse the sentence, right? Then it says, because we reversed the sentence for this reason, we need not discuss appellate's alternative argument that he did not receive the benefit of his plea bargain, which I never did 5 years in probation, and that was the deal. So if I didn't do the 5 years probation, and I never even reported to a probation officer, I never was sentenced. I never went to sentencing, so the deal is still on the table. So if I tell you I don't want the deal and I like to go to trial on it, you can't force the plea bargain on me. I have a right to withdraw the plea, and if I don't withdraw it, then I don't get the benefit of my plea bargain, right? Because you sending me to prison, and I didn't never get probation. So it says, because we reversed the sentence for this reason, we need not discuss appellate's alternative argument that he did not receive the benefit of his bargain disposition. Now here's what we're going to do as the appeals court. The judgment of conviction is reversed, and the trial court is direct to enter an order allowing appellate to withdraw his plea. Now I want to talk about this, because I want you to understand what this means, because it seems as if people keep reading this and they keep saying that's not what it means. That's not what it means. I mean, I know when I look down at this carpet that I'm standing on, my feet is on, that this carpet is black. If I'm looking at this carpet and I know it's black, and you looking at it saying, I'm telling you, man, that carpet really is a green. You just got to be in a light that change colors, or certain times that change. And I'm saying, well, man, let me tell you something. And they say, well, I could look at it right now and it look green to me now. And I know I'm looking at black carpet. I know I'm looking at black carpet. You can't take me outside and I know that grass is green and you tell me that grass is blue. Ain't no way you're going to convince me that that grass is blue and I know that grass is green. But that's what you're trying to do, because I'm reading the disposition. This is the appeals court decision, and it says the judgment of conviction is reversed. And the judgment of conviction means that Cornell Smith was sent to California State Prison for 8 years. And to reverse that judgment of conviction mean release the prisoner and let him go. And the trial court is direct to enter an order allowing the appellate to withdraw his guilty plea. Now listen, this is the appeals court. It specifically explains to you what the district court's supposed to do. The district court supposed to the remedy is to allow the defendant to withdraw the plea and to go to trial on original charges. That's what the district court's supposed to have done. But now that we're the appellate appeals court, I guess we have to compensate Mr. Smith because, they didn't do their job. So we're going to reverse the judgment of conviction. Was guilty, not guilty. And the trial court is directed in an order allowing the appellate to withdraw his guilty plea. Now, I want you to understand that the appeals court is very specific and direct about what they mean. Right up under to enter order allowing appellate to withdraw his guilty plea, it says not to be published. It's up under that. And there's a line under that, meaning you can't write anything else in. The reason that is there is because what we have there is what we mean. We're very specific. We don't want you to do no less than what we wrote. We don't want you to do no more than what we wrote. The reason I'm telling you this is because the judgment of conviction is reversed and the trial court is direct to enter order allowing the appellate to withdraw his guilty plea. That's all supposed to have happened. If they wanted anything else to happen, they would have typed it in. They're very specific. If they meant that the judgment of conviction is reversed and the trial court is directed to enter or order allowing the appellate to withdraw his guilty plea and to stand trial on original charges, they would have typed that in. The appeals court is very specific. They did not type in and to stand trial on original charges. Besides, this is the appeals court. We reversed the judgment of conviction. Now this happened 12/21/01. Also, well, let me show you this first. The judgment of conviction is reversed and the trial court is directed in the order allowing the appellate to withdraw his plea. And that's all. And up under that it says not to be published with a line right there. That means you can't write nothing else in it. Now the next page is a page that I want to read first. It says, now this here was dated 12/21/01, December the 21st, 2001, right? Now, here goes some other papers from these papers here says February 22nd, 2002. And it says a remitter issued. I looked in the law dictionary to see what the remitter means, and the remitter means to release the prisoner and compensate him. That's what it means in the law dictionary. The word remitter. It says remitter issued. It says 2/22/02, remitter issued. I looked in the law dictionary and it said it means to release the prisoner and compensate him. That's what it means, right? Now, it says 2/22/02 under that, and it says case complete. Case complete. And then it has case disposition, judges, panel information, disposition reversed in full. That's what it says. Date 12/21/01. Status, final disposition. Then it has authorizing judges, and it has 3 judges' names. And here's that paper right here. Anyway, can't see it that good. Anyway, what I want to say is, this case is over with. They closed the case. They reversed the judgment 12/21/01. The case was complete and closed 2/22/02. When they issued the remitter, the case was closed and complete. With this type of reversal, it's called, it said disposition, then it says reversed in full. That's what it says. It has the word reverse, and it says reversed in full. Reversed in full. With this type of reversal, you can't try me again. The case was totally complete February the 22nd, 2002. The paperwork itself proves everything. I don't care what the Attorney General says. I don't care what the state of California says. I don't care what the state of Ohio says. None of that matters. The paperwork specifically lays out who, how, where, what, when. And for you to tell me it don't mean what I've just explained is you trying to tell me that the grass ain't green, and I'm looking right at it and I know it's green. You can't tell us that grass ain't green. I don't care what you say. We looking right at it. We know it's green. And just like the disposition, the judgment of conviction is reversed. And the trial court has entered an order allowing the appellate to withdraw his plea, and that's it. If they meant for anything else to take place, it would have been typed in. This is why this says remitter issue. We release the prisoner and compensating. And it has judges' panel information reversed in full. Reversed. Because it's over with. And with this type of reversal, you can't try the prisoner again. And this case was complete 2/22/02. But guess what they did? They hadn't released me from prison yet. They hadn't released me. And they brought me back a couple times in the month of April of 2002. And they gave me 1 year probation. Now remember, this case is closed. And it's in my favor because they reversed the judgment of conviction. And they issued a remitter, which means release me and compensate me. And it says final disposition. This is the final disposition, which means this is over with. The final disposition is a full reversal. This case is over with. Reversed. Look, reversed in full. 12/21/01. Final disposition. Reversed. This case is over with. 2/22/02. Case complete. It's done. They called me back 4/22/02 and said, Mr. Smith, we're going to give you a year probation with assault with intent to commit a felony. And I said, well, what are you talking about? For what? They say under the same case number, NA 040929. Some attorney I just met for the first time. We never discussed the case. He never came to see me. We never talked about anything. Some attorney just standing there. And I say, man, I was just in prison. I got paperwork to prove. I don't have to even, it's over with. Say, well, Mr. Smith, we're going to give you a case. We're going to give you a case. And the case is assault with intent to commit a felony. Under that case number, We're going to give you 365 days county jail suspended and 1 year summary probation, meaning you don't have to report to anyone under that same case number. Let me tell you something. Under the same case number, where a case has been closed and it's over with and you can't try me again on this same case, under that same case number, you gave me a year probation. And there's not even a victim. Under the same case number, NA 040929, you called me back to the same district court where the appeals court had just told the judge you couldn't give me probation, and I was right to withdraw my plea, and that I didn't get the benefit of my plea bargain. With the same courtroom, the appeals court just told the judge, you can't do that. You can't give him probation. You just gave me another illegal sentence. A case called assault with intent to commit a felony, and you gave me 1 year probation. The appellate appeals court just told you that you can't do that. That it's an illegal sentence, and you did it again anyway. I ain't even got no business in your courtroom. What am I doing here? I got this. What am I doing in your courtroom? And I got this. From the appellate appeals court. Judgment of conviction reversed in full. Final disposition. Case complete. Anyway, the same judge who had given me the 8 years, brought me back into her courtroom, and under the same case number, gave me a year. And the case is called assault with intent to commit a felony. And she gave me 1 year summary probation and 365 days county jail suspended. So they let me out of jail that same day. Right out of jail that same day. The probation was gone after about a year. I didn't have to report to anyone. It was called summary probation. Well, I didn't have to report to anyone. So after about a year, that was over with. And then what happened was I ended up going back to California because I was having some problems with the Cleveland, Ohio Social Security office. Everywhere I went, they were causing me problems. I went to one Social Security office, and Mary J. Blige's husband was waiting on me, telling me we ain't taking care of you. And I said, what you mean you ain't taking care of me, man? I didn't, what are you talking about? I come here for some benefits. I didn't even know it was Mary J. Blige's husband until a few days later. I'm looking at TV, and there he was. I said, the guy who waited on me at the Social Security office, who deprived me the right getting my benefits taken care of, is her husband? What was he doing waiting on me? Man, that was weird. Then another time, I had been visiting my daughter, and her mother introduced me to her boyfriend. And the next day, I went to the Social Security office, and he was waiting on me. So I called the 1-800 number, and this stuff was weird. And I told him, I said, I'm not going, I'm leaving town. You know, I had not done that wrong, even though we had a few words. The police that carried guns, the city cops or whatever was right there listening and seeing everything that was going on. So I hadn't done that wrong. It's just that they were disrespecting me so bad. I said, I'm leaving the city. So I left Cleveland. This was 2003. I left Cleveland and went to California. I got me a room downtown California in a Cecil Hotel. The next thing I know, the federal government come get me, talking about that I had threatened to kill government officials. You know, I was kidnapped because they could arrest me while I was at the office. You know what I'm saying? If they wanted me, I'm the one who left Cleveland and told them I was leaving, then got to California and told them what my address was and where I was at and everything. I hadn't done nothing wrong for them to arrest me, especially to travel 3,000 miles to come get me. Anyway, 6 of them arrested me. They took all my property and stuff, and They put me in jail and they let me go after about 11 months, but they never gave me my property and stuff back. Anyway, when I got out, I went to see my brother. I'm just letting you know, I'm giving you a little history of my cases. That's why I'm telling you this story, because this was a story I not even committed a crime. And the federal government's downtown California arrested me for no reason, put me in jail, took all my property, and I never got it back to this day. And sent me to prison. They said they wanted a psych evaluation. First, they sent me around the country to about 7, 8, or 9 different holding places. And then all of them had psych departments at the holding places, but they sent me to prison for about 5 months, Springfield, Missouri, to have a psych evaluation. It was wrong. You could give me a psych evaluation at any of these holding places you holding me at. All of them have psychologists. You sent me to a prison where I had not even had a plea bargain. I had not been sentenced a trial. I had not had a plea bargain or a trial, and you sent me to prison for 5 months. I dressed out like all the prisoners, slept like they slept, ate like they ate, did everything a prisoner did that was doing a life sentence. That was in there I was around murderers and kidnappers, and I ain't even been through my court procedures yet. Now I'm dressed out in prison for 5 months among prison population. That's disrespect to do that to me. Send me to prison among prison population for 5 months, and I had not even been sentenced or been through a trial or accepted a plea bargain. Anyway, after about 9 months, you guys let me out of jail. After 9 or 10, 11 months, you let me out, and you dropped and dismissed all the charges. You say you dropped and dismissed all the charges because of psychological issues that I had, but all the people who was in prison who had psych issues, they were in prison waiting for the doctors to decide when they can leave. That's why if they had threatened to kill someone that had psych issues, if you got psych issues and you a terrorist threat, you don't let nobody out of prison because they got psych issues. The doctor has to determine when they can leave. But you dropped and dismissed charges against me because I was going to ask for the video recording to show you who these people were that was waiting on me, and how you disrespect me. I was going to prove to you in a trial that I was the victim. That's why you dropped and dismissed all charges. Anyway, I got out and I went to see my brothers in California. When I went to see them at LA County Jail, this is 2000. I went in by the federal government in 2000, the beginning of 2004. It had turned 2004 by the time I got downtown Los Angeles at the Cecil Hotel. By the time I got out, after a couple months, it was 2005. So I went to see my brothers at the LA County Jail, and I had luggage, and some sheriff asked me to turn my radio down. I cut it off because he was trying to tap into me. My radio wasn't too loud. So when I cut it off, he knew it. He said, well, come here anyway. So I went over there and he asked for my ID. I gave my ID, went inside and ran a check, brought it back and said everything. I said, everything checked out all right, officer? He said, yeah, everything checked out okay. He said, but I'm taking you anyway. I said, well, officer, if everything checked out all right, why are you taking me in? He said, well, I'm just taking you in anyway. So I told some girl next to me, I said, my name is Cornell Smith. I don't have no warrants. I ain't committed no crime or anything. I'm not on probation, parole, or nothing. This guy's kidnapping me. Just remember my name because I'm being kidnapped. My name is Cornell Smith. That's what I asked her to do. Just remember my name. So he took me in anyway. No charge. I ain't committed no crime. I don't have no warrants. I'm not on probation, parole, or nothing. I'm really kidnapped. Anyway, while I'm kidnapped, my bag And my radio was in the line with about 100 people. I asked him, I said, well, can you have one of your officers to get my bag out of line where I thought I was going back to, but I see you finna put me in jail. So he had somebody go get my radio and my duffel bag. He went through it. I had about 90 CDs in it that I was trying to sell. There was me and my brothers. I had a dagger knife packed down in it, and a few other items just to do with sales and stuff like that. That's what the dagger knife was for, to pop the cellophane on the CDs. Anyway, he saw a dagger knife in my bag that was in a case. It was below the legal size. And he said, oh, look what we have here. And I told him, I said, well, officer, it's packed down in my bag. It's in my luggage. I'm finna put it in the big lockers outside. And I'm not trying to pass it to anyone, because you see, you got a visit on the phone, and you have to, and it's glass. So I'm not trying to slip anything in or nothing like that. And plus, if you hadn't have brought me in here for nothing, you wouldn't even know it's in my bag. I'm not on probation, parole. I'm not committing a crime. It's in the case, packed down in my luggage. I'm not committing a crime. Anyway, he put me in jail, and he tried me for a dagger knife on jail grounds, and a felon, an ex-felon being on jail grounds. These are the charges he gave me: an ex-felon being on jail grounds and a dagger knife on jail grounds. So I go to court, and the court give me a DA reject. You know, in California, a lot of times they hear a lot of cases and they just throw it out. They don't even go through a process of even taking you through any changes. It's called a DA reject. That's what it's called. And on this particular case, that's what they gave me, a DA reject. So when they gave me the DA reject, I was out of there in a day or two in the county jail, and they were so full and had so many people that they were processing it. They said it was taking that long to get me out, right? So they, I dressed out. They gave me all my property back, my bag, my radio, gave me everything back. I was free. It was over with. I got a DA reject. The case been thrown out. So I go back to see my brother again, and when I go back to see him again, the officer looked at me and said, "Oh, you came back here, huh?" I said, "Yeah, officer, they threw that stuff out you charged me with, man." And he grabbed me by my arms. He was twisting my arms like he was breaking it. I had to look at him in the face and say, "Officer, why are you doing that to me? I'm not resisting or anything. How come you twisting my arm like that, officer? I'm not resisting." I had to look him in the face, and I guess he shook out of it. But he was trying to break my arm, and I understand why. I wasn't resisting. Why are you breaking my arm if I'm not resisting? And his partner had his gun out, and it was pointed right in my face. And I said, well, wow, why are they putting that gun in my face like that? So anyway, they take me inside, and they tell their lieutenant what was going on. The lieutenant said, the lieutenant hollered out, we're going back to the courts and make them put those charges back on you. And I told him, I said, man, you guys just kidnapped me, man. This is a totally legal process. I've been freed by the court. You guys don't have the right or jurisdiction to take me back in after the court didn't release me. Y'all kidnapping me. So I went back inside, and they did what they said they were going to do. They went back to the court. So when I went to the court, I told the court, I said, well, I've been released on this charge already. And they wrote up, they gave me a different case number, and you see it's a different date, and all the same charges, but I said it's already been dismissed in court already. They trying me again for something that's been dismissed. So in pre-trial, the judge told me, say, you know what, Mr. Smith, I was going to let you go, but you read that letter, so I'm not. I had read a letter that I wrote a judge and told the judge that I was kidnapped. And since I read the letter in this judge's courtroom, he said he didn't like that I read the letter telling the judge that I was kidnapped. So he's not going to let me go. That was the reason he decided not to let me go. So anyway, I decided to go pro per, because I feel like it should have been dismissed, because it should have been proven that I had the DA reject and that I've been arrested again on charges that's been dismissed. So I went pro per since my attorney couldn't get the court to understand that fact. So while I went to trial, I really won my trial, but what happened was the jury found me guilty because I didn't put no jury instructions together. I didn't know the seriousness of jury instructions. So you could imagine, anybody who understands court could imagine just the public the DA putting jury instructions together and not the attorney. You know, the jury is going to do whatever the jury instructions say do. But you know, both parties usually put jury instructions to balance it out so that the jury will see what they can and cannot do. Some things work with the defendant, some things work against the defendant. The things that the attorney put together is for the defendant. The things that the DA put together is against the defendant. So there's a balance there, and the jury has to look at all of them and decide which one they want to go with. I always thought that jury instructions should not be given to a jury anyway. I always thought that it was a railroad, that it was a big con game, because the jury instructions is telling the jury what they can and cannot do and how they can judge the defendant. When the jury, it takes the power from the jury. Really, you delivering a message from the paper. If the jury really got power over the courtroom, then let the jury decide whether the defendant is guilty or not on their own. Let the jury decide that. Not your jury instructions that you're giving them, that they're going to make a decision from something out of it. So I always thought when I looked at when they told me about the jury instructions, I said, no, the jury instructions, I don't want to use them. But I made a mistake, so that's how I was found guilty. Anyway, I filed a new trial motion. Anyone can go to Cleveland. They could go on a line and go to the Carl B. Stokes courthouse, and they can go to the clerk of courts and look at Cornell Smith civil file. A lot of information in there has been falsified. They just recently, over the last months since I've been home, put other information in there to falsify information. And but what they did, but in there you can find the new trial motion, and also in there you can find Penal Code 207. It's called Kidnapping Defined. You definitely want to look at both of those. Kidnapping Defined is a motion that I put together. It's called Penal Code 207, Kidnapping Defined. I sent it to a couple courts, but then I never really done anything with it, like try to sue with it or nothing, even though it got $10 billion in it. But I never actually pursued it. But Penal Code 207, Kidnapping Defined, you want to check that out. And the new trial motion. My new trial motion I put together, I won. I really won. If you read my new trial motion, you would find out that I really won. But the judge didn't honor it. Anyway, the judge gave me, when I went to sentencing, the judge gave me 2 years for the case, for the DACA 9. You know, it was strange because they were so unfair. When I fought my case, I was telling the jury, you know, I've been tried on this already. That's what I told the jury. I said, I've been tried on this already. And here's the proof. Here's the case number for this. I got 2 case numbers here on the same case. And the judge said, first the prosecutor objected and wouldn't let me talk about it. So the jury took sides with the prosecutor, but I talked about it again anyway. And the judge said, Mr. Smith, if you talk about it again, I'm going to take your pro per rights from you. I told you you can't mention that. I was not allowed to mention to the jury that I had been arrested on this case and given a DA reject by the court and released. And that I went back to visit my brothers again, and they took me back in jail on the same case I've been released on, and went back to the court and told the court to put the charges back on me. I couldn't tell the jury that. The judge and the prosecutor wouldn't let me explain that to the jury. Anyway, when the judge found me guilty, the judge gave me 2 years for the case, and she gave me 2 more years for what I'm telling you about. When the appellate appeals court had let me go by the judgment of conviction being reversed, and they called me back to court in April the 22nd of 2002 and gave me 1 year probation, 365 days county jail suspended, under the case number NA040929, up under that same case number. Well, because that 1 year probation was on my record, 365 days county jail suspended, the judge gave me 2 extra years in prison. I fought it. I told the judge, you can't give me 2 extra years, Your Honor, just because of 1 year probation. On my record, you can't give me 2 extra years in prison. Well, she did anyway, so I ended up going to prison for 4 years, from 2005 when they arrested me up until 2008. And when I got out of prison in 2008, I ended up, make a long story short, I ended up after a while coming back to Ohio because of having some problems in the halfway house in Wilmington, California. So what happened was, after having some problems in Wilmington, California, and coming back to Ohio, and when I got back here, I talked, after a couple months, I talked to my parole officer's supervisor. And he said, well, Mr. Smith, if you come back here, I want to put you back in jail because I heard that you were being assaulted and someone cut your hair in your sleep or put burn marks on your leg while you slept or something. So, you called the police and they didn't move you from that house or do nothing, so you left. He understood what I was saying, so he said, well, I tell you what, if you come back here, you don't have to go back to prison. This is what my parole officer was Al Robis, Los Angeles parole officer, and his supervisor told me if I come back, I didn't have to go back to prison. So I went down to Cleveland County Jail to the warrant department to turn myself in. And the lieutenant there, or the sergeant or lieutenant, he called Long Beach, he called the California sheriffs, and he went on the internet. I was watching. He went on the internet, he made phone calls, and he came back to me and said, Mr. Smith, I'm not going to arrest you because they're not going to come get you. He said, no, really. He said, I talked to him. He said, they're not going to come. So if they're not coming to get you, I'm not going to arrest you. So I said, oh, okay. So even though I was there to turn myself in, they wasn't coming to get me. So I said, well, what I'll do is I'll get my parole transferred. So when I left the warrant unit, I went over to the public defender's office and told him what the situation was, and I asked him for an attorney to get my parole transferred for me. I called the parole department, probation department, trying to work it out, trying to get connected. Anyway, one day my sister gave me the phone and said that some guy had left a message on the phone for me about my parole conditions, that he wanted to help me get it transferred. So I got the recording. He left a recording saying, hey, Cordell Smith, this is such and such. I hear that you trying to get your parole transferred. I'll help you. Call me. So I called him up and I said, well, hey, how you doing? Where you at? I'll come to the office. And he said, no, that won't be necessary. You don't have to come to the office. He said, how about if I come over your house? I said, well, you want to meet over my sisters? He said, yeah. I said, well, come on over right now. He said, no, how about we meet over there 2 days from now? I said, okay, we'll meet over there in 2 days. So we met over there in 2 days. We went in the kitchen and they asked me some questions about leaving California and stuff like that. And I said, oh, okay. Everything. I told them about going to the warrant unit and all of that and trying to turn myself in and them not coming to get me. Anyway, the guy who's supposed to have been a parole officer had this big white beard. And he didn't, I was trying to figure out, I said, is this guy really a parole officer? Because he told me he was a parole officer, but I don't think he's a parole officer. And if he was one, then he must be retired, right? Anyway, he disappeared, and the other dude pulled out his gun and said, get in the truck. Mark Hilbert. He pulled out his gun and made me get in the truck. That parole officer name is it's in my legal papers. I gotta get it. But Mark Hilbert pulled out his gun and made me get in this truck, and he pulled out a paper that said Cordell Smith wanted in the state of California, in West Covina, California, for 2 counts of felony register as a sex offender, right? I said, man, I'm not wanted for no 2 counts of felony register in West Covina, California. I said, man, you kidnapping me, right? So anyway, he take me downtown. I was in Cleveland Heights. He didn't take me to Cleveland Heights jail. He didn't take me to Cleveland jail. I passed up a couple precincts. He took me straight downtown to the Justice Center, and he showed them the paper and booked me in on a paper that said 2 counts of felony to register in the city of West Covina, California. So after being locked up in Cleveland County Jail for a couple months, I sent a letter to the warrant unit because they were familiar with my situation. They knew I had been there and they tried to turn myself in. So I sent them a letter, and I sent the sheriffs a letter telling them, I say, hey, I've been held 2.5 months on a false claim. I'm not wanted for 2 counts of felony register in West Covina, California. I told them that I'm kidnapped. I said, can you guys please investigate that I'm really kidnapped, right? Which I really was kidnapped because that was a false claim, right? So a few days after I sent the paperwork, the letter, the grievances letter to the warrant unit and the sheriff, some marshals come get me and dress me out, and they take me right into a courtroom, a federal courtroom. You know, they come get me, put me in the car, and they drive me straight to a federal courtroom, right? And I get in the courtroom and they give me some papers. They say, Mr. Smith, we're trying you for this and for coming in the city of Cleveland and not registering as a sex offender in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, right? This is my position. My position is, wait a minute. You just held me 2.5 months on a false claim. You just said I was wanted in West Covina, California, and it's not even true. I put grievances out on you and asked them to investigate you, and you mean you're taking me and moving me from the Cleveland County Jail to a federal courtroom? And I told them that you have me kidnapped and you are moving me? You know, besides, you can't try me for nothing else, no way. You done already indicted me on a false claim, and I'm claiming you got me kidnapped, and now you bringing some other charge against me? This is my position, right? Anyway, their position is that I come in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and I hadn't registered as a sex offender because of the 1-year probation that was on my record, assault with intent to commit a felony, where I received a 1-year probation and the 365 days county jail suspended. Because that was on my record, they're saying that I was supposed to come in the city of Cleveland and register as a sex offender, right? Anyway, they take me to Youngstown, Holden, and even though this all took place in Cleveland, Ohio, I never went back to Cleveland, Ohio courtroom. They took me back and forth to Akron courtroom. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I was really kidnapped. I was kidnapped. And it was being covered up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who catch a case out of Cleveland, mostly 99% of them go to Cleveland court. Is where they go. The reason you giving me a Cleveland case and taking me back and forth to Akron court about a Cleveland case, I'm going to a whole nother city about a Cleveland court, is because I'm kidnapped by you. You ain't had no business arresting me on that false claim in the first place, because I wasn't wanted for it. You kidnapped me then. Then you kidnapped me when I asked the sheriffs and warrant unit to investigate you and told them you had me kidnapped. Then you kidnapped me again when you moved me from the Cleveland County Jail to the feds. When you moved me from the state to the feds, you kidnapped me. You don't have no business bothering me. I got grievances on you saying that I'm kidnapped by you. Why are you moving me from the state to the feds? That's why I called you a crooked cop when I walked by you in Youngstown, when I went to Youngstown jail court, and you tried to make me look. I investigated everything about him. He this, he that, he did this. All the paperwork. You got a big stack of paper information that's all been dismissed. I'm just looking at this, how this man is slandering me and making it look like I done murdered someone. And I'm not even in court about shit. I don't even have no business even in this courtroom. And you coming after me like this. And I walked by Mark Hilbert and I said, you a crooked cop. That's what I walked by him and looked him in the face and said, that you a crooked cop. Anyway, they offered me 2 years for entering the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and not registering as a sex offender. I went to trial on the matter. As a witness on a stand, I presented the original charge. I presented the original charge to the judge, 2 counts of failing to register in the city of West Covina, California. I said this is when I was arrested and what I was arrested for, Your Honor. He arrested me originally for 2 counts of failing to register in the city of West Covina, California. And he said that I was wanted in California for those charges. And I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, he held me 2.5 months. And then after I filed grievances on him, he moved me. I explained to the judge the whole situation. And then I showed her the paperwork from in the Court of Appeals from the state of California, Second Appellate Court, that I really don't have a case in the first place. That I've been kidnapped for 9 years on a case. Just like today. It's been 12 years ago. 12/21/01 is when the appeals court reversed my judgment. Here it is, 12/2013. I'm kidnapped on a case that I've been kidnapped 12 years on a case that's been closed. If justice would be served, you'll find it to be the truth. I really am kidnapped. But just these people who run this legal system won't allow justice to be served because they out to get me. Now, when I went to trial, I won my trial. How could I not win if I presented my papers from appellate appeals court and told them what his original charge was and how he moved me and everything? I won. But the judge did not honor my win. The judge did not honor my win. She found me guilty. I was so upset I went and filed a complaint against her, the marshal, and the parole officer, the Mark Hilbert. I mean that other guy. What's his name? Luckett something. Was it Tony Luckett? Is that the guy who said that he would help me get my parole transferred in the first place? So you got to understand that I haven't done anything. I left California. I turned myself in. They wouldn't come to get me. I went to the parole department. I mean to the court appointed attorneys. I called the parole. I was doing everything right. The process y'all taking me through right now is if I've done something and I haven't done anything. You know, so they sent the probation department to see me with my attorney, and we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours together doing a pre-sentence report. I was facing 27 to 33 months. So when I went to sentencing, the judge said, well, Mr. Smith, I'm not going to give you an enhancement. I know I'm not going to give you probation either. I thought I was going to get probation, to be honest. And the prosecutor say, I'm not going to enhance you either. I mean, enhance me for what? I ain't feeling no better because the prosecutor and the judge telling me they not going to enhance me. I'm not even in court for anything. Plus, I didn't won my trial, and you won't honor it. Any judge that look at my case, I say, yes, he won. I thought when you win, you win. I didn't know you could win and lose. Anyway, they said they wasn't going to enhance me. It's on my transcript. I was only facing 27 to 33 months. Everybody in the courtroom, the guy from the pre-sentence people from probation, did sit down and did the pre-sentence report with my attorney, the prosecutor, Mark Hilbert, the marshal that's coming after me, the judge. I mean, it's all white courtroom. And the judge looks at me and say, I'm not going to enhance it, Mr. Smith. I'm not going to give you probation, but I won't enhance you. 46 months. I say, attorney, tell the judge I'm only facing 27 to 33 months, man. Tell her. My own attorney wouldn't speak up. So I said, Your Honor, can I speak? She said, pertaining to what? I said, Your Honor, I can't believe you contributing to my kidnapping. You know I'm kidnapped, Your Honor. She said, oh, well, I considered that. And with that being said, court is adjourned. I stood up and said, somebody please call the government, call Washington and tell them Cornell Smith is kidnapped. It's on my transcript, everything I'm saying. Because I couldn't believe that not only I shouldn't have been in the courtroom, but you done gave me 46 months and I'm only facing 27 to 33 months according to my pre-sentence report. And everybody in the courtroom know about my pre-sentence report. Everybody in the courtroom do. So when you gave me 46 months, you just disrespected me like that on purpose. Just to dog me like that. Anyway, you sent me to Tucson, Arizona State Prison. Time went by. I asked for a halfway house. First, you were going to move me to a different prison because you had me in Tucson, Arizona, and I was really qualified to be in some type of medium or low or something like that. But you had me in the maximum prison, and when my case manager put the paperwork in to get me transferred to a low, it read in the computer, he's not going anywhere. That's all it said. And I said, well, what do they mean? I'm not going anywhere. I qualify for a medium or low a camp or something. Anyway, so now a little time done passed, so I put in for a halfway house. After I put in for my halfway house, you come back to me and you say, after 5 months, Columbus, Ohio said they don't have a bed for you in Columbus, Ohio. And I told my case manager, I said, well, man, I'm going to Cleveland, Ohio. What Columbus, Ohio have to do with this? I ain't going to Columbus, Ohio. He said, well, that's what they saying. They saying that they don't have a bed for you in Columbus, Ohio. So anyway, he said, but they say they're going to be looking around Ohio, though, to see if they can find you anywhere to go in Ohio. And I said, okay. So he come back a couple months later and he said, Mr. Smith, they can't find you a bed nowhere in Ohio. And I said, oh, is that right? They can't find me a bed nowhere in Ohio, huh? So I understood, my case manager didn't understand that someone was trying to disrespect me on purpose. But I understood it when they told me they didn't have a bed for me nowhere in Ohio, that I was being disrespected, right? So I told him I didn't want to go back to Ohio. I said, can you send me anywhere else? I don't want to go there. Can I stay here in Arizona, go to California, anywhere, but I don't want to go back there because they don't have a bed for me. You know, I didn't get my halfway house. Got guys come, they was doing 10, 15, 20 years getting halfway house every day. Here I am in here for nothing because I got 1 year probation on my record. You didn't gave me 46 months because I got 1 year on my probation on my record. Assault with intent to commit a felony, 365 days county jail suspended, just because that's on my record. And you talking about I was supposed to register as a sex offender. You didn't gave me 46 months in prison. And now you telling me you don't have a bed for me in Ohio. So anyway, I tell him, I say, well, I tell you what, you won't send me nowhere else. So what I'm going to do is when I leave, when you send me out of here, I'm going to stop on the bus in one of them cities, and I'm going to go to that county jail, and I'm going to tell them that to just put me in jail and investigate my situation, that I'm kidnapped by California and Ohio, and I'm going to tell them my story, but I'm not going back there. So anyway, I shouldn't have told my case manager that, because he gave me a plane ticket, and I ended up going to Chicago. I didn't want to stay there. It was at night. I had to do my plane ride, and then I went from Chicago to Cleveland, so I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to have a 2 or 3 day bus ride where I was going to stop in all these different states, where I could have went one of them states to their county jail and tell them that, hey, I'm kidnapped by California and Ohio. Can you guys look at the record and listen to my story and investigate the situation? Anyway, I end up coming back here. As soon as I get back here, they want me to report to probation for 10 years. Wait a minute, I have to report for 10 years? Because 10 years ago, well, wait a minute, it's been 12 years ago. Because of 12 years ago, I had 1 year summary probation that I'm telling y'all don't even exist. It's illegal to even give me that 1 year probation. But because that on my record, you say I didn't register as a sex offender in Cleveland, and now you want me to report to someone for 10 years? Well, then they want me to register every 90 days for the rest of my life as a 261 rapist by force and fear. So I'm telling them at the sheriff's department downtown Cleveland in the Justice Center, first of all, I want to give you guys a copy of this paperwork from the Court of Appeals of the state of California, the Second Appellate District Court. Here, you guys a copy. Read this yourself. I don't have no case 261 rapists by force and fear. So why are y'all putting that on paper if I don't have that charge? Anyway, they put it on paper anyway. And they told me I have to register every 90 days for the rest of my life. That's what I do right now. I register every 90 days. So I registered twice. I've been home 6 months. So here it is. I'm living with my sister in the Tremont West Side area, and the sheriff, first they passing out flyers everywhere with my picture on it, calling me a 261 rapist by force. All the neighbors looking at me because the whole community think I'm some type of rapist maniac, man. And then they knock on the door, 7 o'clock in the morning, surrounding the house, and people, police all up and down the street, and they banging hard. And so I open the door. I said, "What's going on?" And they say, "We're just trying to see if you in compliance with the registration." And is that why you at the door, man? I thought it was a raid or something. You mean to tell me all y'all police is here and you banging like that 7 o'clock in the morning just to ask me to see if I'm in compliance with the registration law? Is that what's going on? So anyway, my sister tell me, she say, I think you got to leave my house because they putting you on flyers and stuff, and they coming to the house and they trying to bring you down. And I believe they're going to bring down anyone that's around you. So you should just go on out there in the world and just deal with it. So I say, well, you know what, Ian, you right. I'm gonna have to go out there and deal with it. So I went and registered at a 2100 homeless shelter, and most of the time I just stayed downtown. I slept in the homeless shelter. I slept outside. I slept over a family member house every now and then, but I didn't have no income at the time. I was waiting on them to make a decision about my Social Security disability thing. They made a decision now. Like I have an income now, but at the time I didn't have an income, so I would slip outside a lot of times. Anyway, I ended up moving from 2100 and downtown on the square out to as soon as I got my money out to where did I move out there to? I moved out there to Woodcliff, right there at the Mosley Suites Hotel, $650 a month. It was okay out there for a little while, but they sent me to, you got Woodcliff, then you got Woolowick, then you got Willoughby, then you got Menor, then you got Painesville, then you got what's after Painesville? Perry, Ohio. So here it is. When they gave me my paperwork from Cleveland County Jail, they gave me paperwork to a city 6 cities over. I mean, I'm in Woodcliff. They got police department here. They got police department in Woolowick and Willoughby. They got sheriff's department up through there in Painesville and before there. But they sent me 6 cities over to register as a sex offender. So when I went out there, I told the man, he was a real nice sheriff. His name, Mr. Harps, out in Perry, Ohio. I said, "Mr. Harps, I have a claim, man, trying to sue Cleveland County Registration Department because they got me as a 261 rapist by force and fear. They want me to register every 90 days for the rest of my life. They're falsifying information, and they got me registering, and I shouldn't be registering at all." Right? Because if the truth was to be told, they would acknowledge the fact that this case has been over with 12 years ago. But even if you're not going to acknowledge that and you're just going to acknowledge the 1-year probation, you can't use this in your behalf from the appeals court, because this represents my best interest. So you can't use that for your interest. So if you're going to acknowledge the 1-year probation from 12 years ago, I'm not a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. I'm still not obligated to have to register, even if you hold a 1-year probation over my head, assault with intent to commit a felony, 365 days, county jail suspended. Even if you hold that over my head, I'm still not required to have to register 12 years later. So here it is. I tell this to the sheriff out in Perry, Ohio, this 6 cities over that they making me go, 6 cities over to register. So yeah, I had to go. I was living in Woodcliff. That was a city. Then Woolowick is the next city. I lived in Woodcliff. I had to pass up Woolowick, which is the next city. Then Willoughby is the next city. Then Menor is the next city. Then Painesville is the next city. Then Perry, Ohio is the next city. So I had to go 6 cities over to register. So I told him, I said, I'm going to take you guys to court, man, if you make me register, because I'm not a 261 rapist by force and fear. And he said, well, okay. He checked me out, and he got an email from Long Beach, California. He let me read the email, and the email said, Cornell Smith have a case, assault with intent to commit a felony. He received 1-year probation and 365 days county jail suspended, and he's not required to have to register. That's what his email said from Long Beach Clerk of Courts, right? He said, but I have to make you register anyway. The reason I have to make you register anyway is because the state of Ohio told me that they have some other paperwork for you. And on this paperwork right here, they're saying that you're a 261 rapist by force and fear, and you're a 220 assault with intent to commit a felony. They putting both on you. They calling you a sex predator. They putting both charges on you. So now you're a 261 and a 220. And I said, is that right? That's what they're doing, huh? He said, yeah, that's what they're doing. He said, so I have to, this, you're in Ohio, and this is what the state of Ohio said you have to do. So that's what you have to do. So he made me register as a 261 and a 220, right? So since he made me register as a 261 and a 220, I was having problems in the hotel I was staying in, thinking somebody was in my room when I wasn't there, and possibly even when I was there and didn't know it, right? So the Mosley Select Suites on out in Woodcliff, so right on Euclid Avenue, 28500 Euclid is the address, right? So anyway, when I called the police and asked them to investigate people going in people's rooms in that hotel, a couple days later, some woman went in the computer and gave me a paper with my picture on it and said, you're a sex offender. She was the manager of the hotel. She said, you're a sex offender. We had known that. We would not had let you in. Gave him his money back. We don't want your money. We don't let sex offenders in here. Here's the paperwork with you on there saying you're a 261 rapist. There's your picture. Say 261 rapist right there. And they gave me that paperwork. And yeah, that is why it was very important for me. That's why the judge said, that's why the appeals court, someone said to me, that's exactly why the appeals court said, the judgment conviction is reversed. That means I'm a free man, it's over with. I don't have to deal with y'all anymore. And the trial court is direct to enter an order allowing appellate to withdraw his guilty plea. See, it was very important for you to get me out of the system. Because now everywhere I go, everything they do, anytime they pull paperwork, they pull up 261 rapists by force. That's why the appellate appeals court wanted me to go back to the court only to withdraw the plea. Only to withdraw it. To get me out of the system. Because if I don't withdraw it and the judge don't change it, then I'm still in the system, right? But that's all I'm supposed to do. And the case is over with. All the paperwork I have is proof here that my case has been over with 12 years ago. I've been suffering on a case that's been over with 12 years ago. So anyway, so I was registering as the 261 and the 220 now. So I end up, so they put me out of the hotel and they say I'm a rapist, 261, and give me a paperwork. I go back downtown and I'm upset now because I'm tired of dealing with this. So I tell them, I say, well, why don't you guys put the right information down there? They got a little upset down at the sheriff's registration office because I say, now y'all done changed my charge. I say, now, because I had to leave Perry, Ohio, and go back, take the paperwork back to Cleveland because they put me out of Woodcliff. Since they put me out of Woodcliff, I came back and lived with my sister here in Cleveland Heights. So I had to take paperwork back downtown Cleveland, because they didn't want me there in Woodcliff, Ohio. So they put me out of that hotel like they put me out of the Tremont area over there on the west side. So, they acting like I'm some type of serial rapist or something, and I don't even have a rape on my record other than what you're framing me with. I don't have no rape on my record, and you're falsifying information. I notice when I look at my record now, all these new charges that you claim I got in the past, and I say, why are they falsifying all of this information, putting this stuff in my record like that? In my civil file, all that information that's been dismissed that's in my behalf, why are you putting all that stuff in my file like that? And why are you putting all that stuff on my record, all that false information? So anyway, I'm here in Cleveland Heights. My sister get a letter the other day saying that they didn't want me out here in Cleveland Heights or in this house, whatever, that I was an unauthorized person, and that they were the sheriffs in Cleveland Heights, the city of Cleveland Heights, and the sheriffs. They didn't want me out here, and that if I didn't leave in the next by the 4th of September, that they were going to go to the Section 8 people and mess up her Section 8 and get them to take her Section 8 from her. So now they don't want me here in Cleveland Heights, so I got to be out of here over the next few days or whatever. Because I'm an unauthorized sex offender. The sheriffs came out here already and knocked on the door to see was I complying with the sex offender law, and he started walking to all the houses telling them that I was a sex offender, a rapist by force and fear. And I went out there and I told him, I said, man, you know what? That's illegal what you're doing, going to them people's houses. If it's necessary, then it's necessary, but it's not necessary. My case is not even a 261 rapist. I received 1 year probation 12 years ago. You ain't got no business walking all these people's houses in community slandering my name like that. I'm gonna sue y'all for that. Told that man I was so mad when that dude was doing that. Anyway, a few days later, that's when she received a letter from the sheriffs in the, they claim the city of Cleveland Heights, that I'm unauthorized in his house. I guess they don't want me here because I told what I said to him, So now I got to find somewhere else. This the third place they done put me out of, about 1 year summary probation. Then they come by sitting in the street and stuff, and and stuff, and looking at the house like like my case is really serious. I don't even have a case in reality. I never even raped Denethia Wilson in the first place. This is 2013. 1999, you arrested me on a charge that never even happened. You framed me and kidnapped me. And here it is, 2013, and you're still bothering me. Set me free. State of California, state of Ohio, I've not committed a crime. Let me go. Set me free. You know I've not committed a crime. Why are you trying to hold me for nothing? Let me go. I want my life.